In 1941, Joseph P. Kennedy secretly ordered doctors to cut open his 23-year-old daughter's skull. She never spoke or walked again. He kept it a secret for 20 years. Is this a monster? Or a desperate father lied to by the medical establishment? History calls him an American tyrant who traded with mobsters and bought the White House. But today, we are his defense attorneys. Joe Kennedy didn't corrupt the American dream. He exposed a rigged system, broke it, and forced a hostile country to surrender to his bloodline. The Bootlegger Lie and the WASP Cage. To understand the man, you must understand the hostile cage he was born into. Late 19th century Boston was controlled by the WASP elite, the Brahmins. If you were an Irish Catholic like Joe Kennedy, you were practically a second-class citizen. Signs in shop windows literally read, "No Irish need apply." No matter his brilliance or his Harvard degree, the doors of real power were securely locked by families who despised his blood. This hostility birthed the biggest myth of his life. Everyone knows Joe Kennedy made his first millions as a ruthless bootlegger during Prohibition, trading illegal liquor with the mafia. It's repeated as absolute historical fact. Yet, search the FBI archives, the Treasury Department, and every raid record from the 1920s. There is not a single document, not one arrest warrant, not one financial ledger proving he ever sold a single drop of illegal liquor. So why the rumor? Because the Protestant elite couldn't stomach the truth. An Irish Catholic outsider had beaten them at their own game. Kennedy didn't need to sell booze. He made millions legally, manipulating the entirely unregulated stock market. He perfected stock pools. He would collude with other insiders to quietly buy up shares of a company, trade it back and forth to create fake momentum, and when the unsuspecting public rushed in, Kennedy dumped his shares, crashing the price and walking away with millions. It was predatory and brutal capitalism. But here's the defense. Kennedy didn't invent this rigged system. He just mastered the exact same dirty tricks the aristocratic WASP families had been using for decades. He just did it better. To build a dynasty the establishment couldn't ignore, he needed FU money, and he took it right out of their pockets. The predator turned protector. If Kennedy was such a financial predator, why did President Franklin D. Roosevelt give him absolute political power? Fall, 1934. The Great Depression is ravaging the country. Millions are starving, and the public violently hates Wall Street. Roosevelt creates the Securities and Exchange Commission to clean up the corrupt stock market, and who does he appoint as its first chairman? Joe Kennedy. Washington exploded in outrage. It was widely described as putting Al Capone in charge of the FBI. But FDR understood something crucial about power. It takes a thief to catch a thief. Kennedy knew every loophole, every backroom deal, and every manipulation tactic because he had personally invented them. As SEC chairman, Kennedy was terrifyingly effective. He moved with the cold precision of a hitman, immediately outlawing the exact insider trading pools and short-selling schemes that had made him rich. He forced corporations to publish honest financial reports. He completely betrayed his own class of Wall Street speculators to establish the modern financial regulations that protect average investors to this day. The ultimate insider burned down the casino. Why? Because he had already cashed out his chips, and now he wanted respectability. The Hollywood transaction. But while he craved respectability, his moral compass remained fundamentally broken. Kennedy was a notorious, flagrant philanderer. His highly public multi-year affair with Hollywood's biggest megastar of the era, Gloria Swanson, reveals the terrifyingly transactional way he viewed human beings. In the late 1920s, Kennedy consolidated multiple studios and slashed budgets with corporate brutality. He also took complete control of Swanson's finances, manipulating them to fuel his own investments. He produced her film, Queen Kelly, which was a catastrophic failure. When Kennedy realized it was a financial sinkhole, he quietly legally insulated himself, pulled out his investments, and abandoned the project, leaving Swanson practically bankrupt. He didn't love her. He used her fame as a business asset, then disposed of it. But the truly shocking and provocative part? While sleeping with Swanson, Kennedy actually introduced her to his devout, pregnant wife, Rose, and brought his mistress onto the family yacht. It is a morally repulsive display of megalomania. But look at his twisted reality. For Joe Kennedy, his family was a sacred dynasty, a political corporation to be protected at all costs. Hollywood, mistresses, partners, and friends, they were just business transactions. He was a monster, yes, but a monster with ice-cold logic. The paranoia of the Appeaser. This ruthless desire to protect his bloodline at the expense of others brings us to his most disastrous political failure. 1938. Joe Kennedy is appointed as the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom. Europe is marching toward the bloodbath of World War II. From his desk in London, Kennedy openly supports the appeasement of Adolf Hitler. He sends reports to Washington declaring that democracy is finished in England and urges America to stay out of the conflict. He even tries to arrange a secret unauthorized meeting with Hitler himself. History rightfully condemned him as a defeatist, a coward, and an anti-Semite. His political career was vaporized instantly. But peel back the geopolitical ideology and look at the raw, psychological terror of a father. Kennedy had 4 sons of prime military age: Joe Jr., Jack, Bobby, and Teddy. Having witnessed the pointless meat grinder of World War I, Kennedy's singular, obsessive goal was keeping American boys, specifically his own flesh and blood, out of another European trench. It was a catastrophic, unforgivable political misjudgment. But the defense argues it was born of desperate, blinding paternal paranoia, not fascist loyalty. He was literally willing to let all of Europe burn to ash if it meant his 4 sons wouldn't catch fire. The medical gamble and the tragedy. This obsession with protecting the family image leads directly to his darkest, most unforgivable sin. 1941. Kennedy's 23-year-old daughter, Rosemary, is suffering from developmental delays, seizures, and volatile mood swings. She is sneaking out at night. In the 1940s, mental health care was medieval. The terrifying reality for a woman like Rosemary was forced institutionalization in abusive, horrific state wards. Kennedy secretly authorized a prefrontal lobotomy. The procedure went catastrophically wrong. Rosemary was left with the mental capacity of a 2-year-old, unable to walk, speak, or care for herself. It looks like the act of a monster prioritizing his son's political PR over his child's brain. But the defense must present the medical consensus of 1941. A lobotomy wasn't a horror movie trope. It was hailed by the American Medical Association as a revolutionary miracle cure. The man who invented the procedure, Antonio Egas Moniz, was later awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Joe Kennedy didn't torture his daughter out of sadism. He made a desperate, irreversible gamble on the era's most cutting-edge science to save her from a straitjacket in an asylum. It was a tragedy of blind faith in modern medicine, a risk that destroyed her life. The deal with the devil. Fast forward to 1960, the climax of his life's work. His son, JFK, is running for president, but the Protestant establishment wants Richard Nixon. No Catholic has ever won the White House, and the prejudice is rampant. When JFK miraculously wins the crucial West Virginia primary and sweeps the famously corrupt wards of Chicago, rumors explode. Wiretaps catch mafia bosses like Sam Giancana bragging about rigging unions for the Kennedys. Frank Sinatra supposedly acts as the middleman between Joe Kennedy and the Chicago outfit, trading underworld influence for votes. Did Joe Kennedy use mafia money to buy the presidency? Once again, search the archives. There is zero paper trail, not one single piece of hard evidence directly connecting Joe Kennedy to voter fraud or mob payouts. But if he did use the underworld, why? Because Joe Kennedy knew the elite would never play fair against his son. The system was rigged, the game was dirty, so Kennedy simply hired the best cheaters in America to break it. He was willing to broker a deal with the devil, shake hands with murderers, and carry the mortal sins himself, so his son could emerge spotless as the savior of a new generation. So, monster or not, the verdict is yours.